Hey everyone, my name is Jubert. Back in the day, Nintendo used to be known for putting harsh guidelines on what could or couldn't be put in a game if it was to be published in the West. Back in Japan, things were not as harsh, but over in the US, there was a great video game crash. Everywhere else, games were doing fine, and were always doing fine. But with the US being the biggest consumers in the world, you kind of want to tiptoe in a market minefield such as this one. But less than 20 years later, the market was much better, but a better market seemed to leave Nintendo behind. And the unthinkable happened. To this day, only something like 3 games published by Nintendo have been rated M to my knowledge. If you know there are any more, please tell me. I've searched everywhere, but I can't find an answer to how many there are exactly. Also, while you're down there, a like would be greatly appreciated, but by no means necessary. If you're enjoying these videos, a subscription would also be incredible. Of these 3 M-rated games, the first release was Eternal Darkness on the GameCube. As I said before, Nintendo was being left behind in the gaming world, with the GameCube being the second worst-selling Nintendo console of all time that existed. Some people like to think there's a console between the SNES and Nintendo 64, but it's not on the Nintendo website, so I don't think it ever happened. Nintendo was desperate to stay afloat, despite the GBA selling surprisingly well. This desperation caused Nintendo to get a little freaky with their game releases on the GameCube. And with that, we've come full circle to Eternal Darkness: Sanity's Requiem. As I said, this was the first game ever published by Nintendo to be rated M for mature. And it is probably the most requested game for Nintendo to bring back. The GameCube is already the most forgotten generation of Nintendo that exists. Even with the Wii having horrible controls, they re-released more games from that than the GameCube. Nintendo loves to re-release their Mario games. But Super Mario Sunshine was completely unavailable for nearly 20 years. Metroid Prime 1 and 2 were released on the Wii, but it is expensive beyond belief nowadays, though the first game was recently remastered for the Nintendo Switch. The same goes for games like Pikmin, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, and Chibi Robo, another forgotten series. Many more games on the GameCube published by Nintendo, or not, have been lost to time. So why is Eternal Darkness the one people want to return? If you've ever heard of Eternal Darkness before, even just barely, there's one thing you definitely know: the sanity meter. Now, sanity meters in games, video, or board games are not a novel concept. The concept comes from the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, the original J.K. Rowling, and a true testament to separating art from the artist. Seriously, this guy was a huge piece of crap. While games use sanity meters to mess with you, Eternal Darkness did something that has yet to be replicated to its scale. It messed with you, the player, not the character. Fourth wall breaks were a novel concept back in the 2010s, hence why shows broke it a lot back then. But this game came out in 2002, and still does amazing fourth wall breaks, even today. If you look up sanity effects for Eternal Darkness, the video that comes up that shows every single one is over 22 minutes long. It starts out, as you would expect, if your sanity goes down, "Oh no, I'm melting," or "I'm walking on the ceiling, whoa." Okay, that one's a little weird, but it ramps up to 11 real quick. The game reset. Are you sure you want to delete all your save data? And then pretends to delete it no matter what you press. And even the blue screen of death. Yes, the game will fake a blue screen on a GameCube. Even if you know it's fake, I don't think there's actually a way to delete your same game from the options menu. It can still catch you off guard. And since you are immersed, it will break the illusion and stun you. For instance, in books and stories and stuff like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, there's a prank where you wake up someone and tell them they're late for school or work or something. Usually they are so in the moment they don't stop to think, why are they still here? Shouldn't they be late too? Or why is it dark out? To be fair, depending on where you live, it could very well be still dark out when you get up. But it's a fake prank, so who really cares? The game messes with your mind, so even if the game pretends to switch to another channel, makes the screen black while pretending to have a zombie attack you, I'll be specific, but trust me, it apparently happens, your immersion breaks and you can forget that you have low sanity, so you might think it is a bug or a glitch or something. While the game is best known for sanity effects, it is also remembered for being an incredible game with a great story and great gameplay. I'll try to not spoil that much for you, but I've already done a lot by explaining the most compelling part of the game, but you should be fine if you still want to play. Your character, Alex, goes to their recently killed grandfather's mansion in Rhode Island. I'm not joking. Why is it so specific? I don't know. There you find the Tome of Eternal Darkness, which begs the question, what came first, the book name or the game name? With this book, you get to relive the lives of your past relatives. Personally, if you asked me if I wanted to relive my century-old relatives' lives, I'd probably turn you down, especially if I read the first chapter and found my ancient Roman ancestor cursed my whole family. But hey, I'll forgive, and while I'm at it, I'll forget too. The Tome of Eternal Darkness allows you to do a lot of things, but only after you find its pages scattered throughout the mansion. And if you don't find its 8 pages, Slenderman will hunt... wrong game. Sorry about that. Through the game, you get to learn magic. But not that magic. Magic. Odd choice, but whatever. Through the game, you also learn combat to defend yourself against monsters. Stuff like the aforementioned zombies. This is another thing I don't see games do often. It allows you to lock on enemies like Zelda, but unlike Zelda, it allows you to select body parts to attack. So if you want to blind an enemy, you cut off its head and attack from there. There's also a pretty good progression system in the game, where usually a game will lock you off for X reason. Eternal Darkness will give you a broken key to the second floor that you have to mend using a magic spell that you get later. So if it doesn't block you outright, it gives you materials to do stuff later when you have more options. The fact this game had no release outside of the GameCube is criminal, especially since this game did not sell very well, at less than 500,000 copies worldwide. Heck, the only reason I have this game is because I know a guy who had the game and was willing to sell it to me. And he claimed that the game was pushed by Nintendo very little. The game is incredible, but with so few copies out in the wild, it deserves at least a re-release. It already has widescreen, so if Nintendo really wanted to, they could just have the GameCube emulator with the ROM loaded, after going through widescreen first, obviously. So, if you haven't played the game, I highly recommend it, even if you have to emulate it, which might take away some of the magic. Pun intended. I'm sorry. What did Lovecraft do? I mean, if I told you the name of his cat, you'd probably hit me first, but then you'd have to Google to make sure I was telling the truth, because I mean, it's just kind of unbelievable. He was very, very anti-Semitic, notoriously so, even though his mother was Jewish, which I'm fairly sure makes him Jewish by extension, but I'll deal with that moral dilemma later. He also apparently hated America and what it stood for, which I guess is kind of par for the course at this point, but it's just the cherry on top of the chocolate ice cream that really describes what was awful about him. Really, again, the old J.K. Rowling, who really does stand as a testament to separate art from the artist.